Okay. Okay. Well, I'm live. I'm alone. Make a tweet. Okay. Hello. I think it's gonna be just me today. Because, Constantine's busy at work. And, so is Language Learner, actually. They're both busy at work. So, I'm gonna start at like 8:45. I just started to stream early. To give people a chance to join. So yeah, there's both a lot of news and like almost no news. It's kind of fun like that. All the major news is like kind of boring. But yeah, how are you guys doing? How's everybody doing? So the news in Bakhmut is not great, Bob. Yeah, it is Leopard Day. It is Leopard Day, and leopards are fun. Let me find a cool picture of a leopard. Then we could look at a leopard together. I don't actually know what kind of leopard they're sending. Are they sending like the 1A6 or the 2A6? I mean, the 2A6 is the coolest of the leopards, I think. Look at him. I love the arrow shape on the turret. It's pretty cool. I hope that Greece eventually sends some leopards, because Ukraine could really use some of Greece's leopards, because they have like 500. And I really don't understand why Greece has 500 leopards. I don't know who they're expecting a war with. I guess like Turkey or something. I don't know. I don't think they need 500 though. Yeah, the fun little tank though. And the nice thing with the leopard is it's just so good at maneuvering that you can just get, you fire and maneuver. It has great acceleration, both forwards and backwards. I don't know if they'll be upgrading leopards for this. There are a lot of upgraded leopards, especially in Greece. The I think Greece also has a bunch of leopard like 1A5s, I think. Those are pretty cool too. Ooh, the leopard 1A5. Is that Constantine?
Yeah, that's me. Who are you talking about? I don't see anyone here.
Oh, there's people here. I was just kind of like looking at pictures of leopards for the first few minutes because I wanted to start at 8:45. Although it is 8:45 now. So Yeah, I can never remember if the 1A6 exists or not, or if it was just a prototype. I think it was just the prototype. Hello, Canada. Okay, so I guess we can start. First, Constantine, is there anything you want to say to get started?
I want to know who you were talking with.
Oh, we're just bullshitting for the first few minutes.
Oh, you had the stream going, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay, great. Good thing, because I thought maybe you did not start the stream, and now I would talk about some weird stuff that I don't want others to hear.
Okay.
So we're good.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so back to is there anything you want to say to start, Constantine, or should I just start going through news?
You should start going through news. I don't really have anything to add right now.
Okay.
It's been a very busy week for me at work, so I'm more like catching up with you as well, rather than contributing.
Okay. So first off, the shelling in the Chernihiv, really more so Sumy area, is reasonably heavy lately. It seems to be getting increasingly heavy shelling in this area, and I don't want to say like I read that like one report that one town got hit by like 50 mortars. Like that's the sort of heavy shelling. Like 50 mortars here, like 20 artillery shells there. Like that's what I mean by heavy shelling. But considering there's no actual like combat going on, it seems like a lot. But
yeah, and it's a lot if you ask yourself how many shells did land in your city today.
Yeah.
It would be a lot.
And like a lot of these are like really small towns. Like some of them are bigger. Like that's bigger, but some of them are like some of these places have like 4 houses and they have like 50 mortar rounds coming in. Like I don't even know why Russia shoots some of these places, but well, whatever. And the same is sort of true for the Kharkiv area, where some of these towns get heavily shelled, especially like these ones north of Kharkiv. I don't know why, again, I don't know why, but they heavily shell this sort of area. And they kind of take turns. Like a few days ago, they shell like this town, and then like the next day they shell like this one, and now they're shelling these two. And I don't really understand why, but that's just the thing that's happening. And you could say it's pinning forces.
They are practicing.
Yeah, it's.
Trust me, they have they use mostly conscripts over there, and poorly trained forces. So it's them practicing.
And a few days ago, there was a report of a ground attack somewhere in Sumy. I couldn't actually find where in Sumy, but there was a ground attack where the Russians pushed through some forces and they were shot at and then they ran away. So and I have no clue where that actually happened. If I were to guess, probably somewhere here-ish, but I have no idea. Anyway, so the going to the Kupiansk area where things like actually start mattering. There was a very large explosion in Kupiansk last night. It really sounded like an ammo depot exploding, because you hear like that popcorn type explosion. I don't know where in Kupiansk it was. I just kind of like randomly marked it, but those are very large explosion. And in addition to that, there's some other shelling where a few people died. But there's general fighting in this area north of Kupiansk, where, generally speaking, Ukraine very much wants to take Liman Pershi, and Russia very much wants to take Ryankivka, or Ranikivka. I actually don't know how to say that word, but anyway, nothing is really happening. It's all like really small level fighting. Like a platoon would probably be large. Like I don't think it's even at the platoon level. It's kind of like almost pointless to bring up in conversation, but it is happening. There's the general attacks in Novoselivska and Kuzymivka, where Russia is trying to counterattack and Ukraine is beating them back, mostly with artillery. Konstantin, I don't know if you've heard much from here lately.
So there is unfortunately heavy fighting once again. Russians are using a lot of artillery to fire back. They had some success. Unfortunately, had some friends lost there yesterday.
That's sad.
The day before. So the heavy fighting continues. But Ukraine right now is actually entering Kuzymivka.
Yeah.
Already. And the Russian losses are just staggering. I've been shared a couple of videos. I cannot share them, but they are taking heavy damage over there. Probably someone will leak them sooner or later, but they're taking really big losses over there.
And this, when we look at the map, like this first hill is cleared, right? Like this, up to like this sort of triangle has been cleared, I imagine. Do you know?
Yeah, you cannot hold it. You cannot hold it.
Yeah.
There was no one essentially, generally.
Yeah.
There were no positions. I have a video where they tried to advance through it, but got a couple of 155s landed nearby, and they just turned away and run away.
Yeah. So then this next hill is kind of negligible, right? So then these two hills here, I imagine, are what Russia is defending. That's my assumption. And the benefit of these hills is that not only does Ukraine have to fight up the hill, but Russia has the benefit of these houses on the crest of the hill that they can fight through, and also they can hide on the other side of the hill to protect themselves from artillery and tank fire and whatever else, right?
I'm not sure much. Yeah, the houses are there, but I'm not sure much of the benefit, because this village is like, if you look at the elevation from the highway that goes from on the east from it. Yeah, and he did this. Sorry, it's not. This is railroad. Like elevation from like go north where you have the red one, the red.
We're looking at Kuzymivka, which is next to Novoselivska.
Yeah, so this hill that you've been talking about, the one in the south, for example, it's been, if you draw the line, if you compare the elevation from the railroad,
it's about 50-meter difference.
Yeah, and what is the distance between Kuzymivka, between this hill to the,
It's about
2 kilometers.
1.5 kilometers. Yeah. 2/3.
On the distance of 50 meters, that's elevation of 50 meters on the distance of 1.5 kilometers is pretty big, and it gives you the overview pretty much. And what it also gives you, if you have a drone, it's like you just fly just a bit to see everything. And I don't see like this is a hard point for them to keep. And yeah, they've been having losses over there.
More so, my point is I'm not trying to say that this is easy to hold, but more so my point is that there's just all of these hills that Ukraine is going to have to fight over. So even if any individual hill is hard to defend. It's just the fact that they have to constantly do it over and over again. That is the what was going to make attacking this general area difficult.
So another thing is this is like to resupply that hill, you have to go through the lower ground, like really lower ground, and to change your troops. And this is pretty mashy. This is like a mud over there. So I can imagine this is not. They may hold it for some time, but I don't think this is a really viable position for in the long run.
Yeah.
I just don't see them holding it really. I don't. They've been trying really hard. They've been throwing bodies there, but I don't know how long they're gonna last over there.
And to be clear, Ukraine has not captured Kuzmivka. Russia is still defending it, but Ukraine is attacking it. Okay, so moving south, Stelmachivka. I don't know how to say these names. I'm really sorry. And Kolomychivka. All right. I really don't know how to say it. Can you say these names, Konstantin? Because I can't. I actually want to learn, but I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, that's Kolomychiha.
Okay. Anyway, so Russia is attacking through this town. I'm just going to draw a line like this. They're attacking kind of this way, moving west. So, and the from what I understand, the fighting is in these outskirts, more so on the Russian side, not so much on the Ukrainian side. So, the other way of putting this is Ukraine seems to be, although I don't actually have solid proof, but they seem to be encroaching on this town. So I have the Ukrainian line of control here. They seem to be using more of the gray area to get closer to the Russians, even though Ukraine doesn't actually control this area yet. So this is what I understand of this area. And I think the same is generally true for Andriivka down here, where Ukraine is encroaching on the town. They're not attacking it, but they're just kind of like inching closer to it. So Konstantin, do you have any guess on how many people are in this general area? Because I really don't know.
They keep like in Kuzmivka, they keep a battalion worth. In Russians but it does not mean that the entire battalion over there at the given moment. They have a town behind it, Nauholne, and there is another one to south of it, where they keep their main forces, and they just send them into the Kuzmivka from time to time. But in general, they have at any given moment a battalion, which means at least two companies constantly fighting, and another company is holding back with the reinforcements, specifically in Kuzmivka. And that's usually, I think, they hold the same for other villages as well.
Yeah, so it's basically the reinforcements are here, and they're sending them there, right? So
yeah.
And would you guess that it would be roughly the same amount of people in these two southern towns, the south of Kuzmivka, that there'd be like maybe a battalion here as well?
I can probably so. I would say probably a bit less, but around that. It's currently holding the lines.
Yeah.
But of course they have the reinforcements too. If there's problem, they change the battalion, they change the companies.
Yeah, and obviously the new weapons will give Ukraine new capabilities. in the future. I think that's obvious, but we're just sticking to the present for now. So
Yeah, this is standard European, landscape, and those new weapons, they are designed to fight and at it, and I would expect them to have a pretty big impact.
so kind of all of the area between like Kuzumivka and Cremina, I have no information on like any of it. It's actually frustrating. There have been some attacks near Chernopapivka where Russia is pushing west, but I don't think it's really much. It's just kind of they're just trying to like play kind of a mobile defense basically. And the same is kind of true where they are pushing west towards Terni, but that's also a sort of mobile defense, just trying to keep their control over these fields that are west of Kremina. Ukraine is attacking Dubrova from the north. I believe they're attacking both into Dubrova from the north and also east into this forested area next to the big number 10. I don't. Why is there a big number 10? It's like it really amuses me.
I think that's coincidence.
It's fantastic. It's like the big number 10. Right. There's and today there's some rumors that Russia counterattacked in this forested area that's south of Kremina and west of Shipilivka, and they say that they took some of this territory. I don't actually see solid proof of it, but I believe this little town here, or whatever this is, they say that they took that today. I still keep it as a gray area for now. I might change it to Russian controlled tomorrow or something, but yeah, I don't know what else to say. So that's kind of the Kupiansk to Cremina news. I don't know if anybody has any questions about that. And yet, when Ukraine gets planes, I agree that Russia is going to lose their mind. when Ukraine has planes can hit things from further away than unguided rockets. I don't mean, but what do you mean by the water situation? I don't know what you mean by what is the water situation. I know that Russia is shelling this road that's near Bilohorivka, and they regularly shell Serebranka. Mostly because they think Ukraine is crossing the river here, even though they're not, but Russia is just really thinks that they are and keeps shelling it. Other than that, I don't really know what to say about the river situation. It's Ukraine mostly controls it still, I guess you could say. Dubrova is a gray area. I can't remember the name of this town. Was it Kuzin? Anyway, that's whatever. It's that's also a gray area. So these two towns are both gray areas right now. Moving on to the north of Bakhmut, there's very little news in Bilohorivka and Verkno-Kamyanska and Sperna. Like, there's very little news in all these. Russia is trying to attack towards Vyimivka, but they haven't gotten very far. I don't know of any particular gains. I believe they're trying to move along this railroad, but I don't know if they even got to the railroad yet. But Russia is attacking Rozdolivka from multiple angles. They're attacking from the south and from the southeast, but they have no particular gains in the past few days that I know of. They did capture Krasnopolivka. They captured this town, mostly, if not entirely. I think this very northern part is a gray area, but other than that, they captured the entire town, and they're trying to cross this river, but they have not been able to. I think mostly because of heavy artillery fire. Whenever they try to cross, they take heavy casualties. Moving down to Blahodatny, not much has happened. The main part of the town is either a gray area or controlled by Russia, and the kind of outskirts are controlled by Ukraine. Krasnohora is still standing in Ukrainian control, but the area south of it is kind of a nightmare. So I'm going to change to the other map because it's easier to see. And I'm going to turn that off. Okay, so Krasnohora is standing firm, but Russia is pushing from Pidnohradna towards Paris. I can't say these names. Pereskovivka. They've pushing through the this kind of open field land. There's some evidence that they've captured this garden center. I've conservatively marked it as a gray zone, but they may have captured it already. And then soon they will be attacking the main part of the town. I mean, like, by soon, I mean, like, probably tomorrow. So while Krasnohora is standing pretty strong, even though it's been attacked from basically every angle, the area south of it seems to be collapsing. There is a general hope that this, I believe it's a train, this railway will be kind of the backstop where Ukraine will use that as a natural defensive position, and probably everything east of the train will be lost in this general area. Maybe not Krasnohora, which is like oddly strong, but if you look this whole area north of Bakhmut, Ukraine is kind of generally abandoning all of this area to the railway. In this kind of what they call the private sector north of Bakhmut, Russia took a lot of ground here recently. There was a point where the Ukraine decided to withdraw from one defensive position. I don't know exactly where it is, but they decided to withdraw from one defensive position, and as they were withdrawing, there was an unexpected Russian attack, and it kind of caused a rout, I guess, where Ukraine ended up abandoning more positions than they intended to abandon. So it kind of created a small breakthrough for the Russians. I'm not exactly sure where that breakthrough was, but I imagine one of these blocks, basically. And so this northern part of Bakhmut is kind of a nightmare. It's not going well. The good news, if you want to call it good news, is that they're about to get significant reinforcements, I think, in the next few days to stabilize this area. but I don't know. Is yeah. I'm sorry, I'm not reading the chat, so I don't know if someone asked like questions or something. So that's kind of the northern part of Bakhmut. It's kind of collapsing. They're probably falling back to this railroad. I think that's the general idea. And this railroad runs through all of Bakhmut. And generally speaking, Ukraine can fall back to that railroad throughout the entire city and cut the city in half and just defend one half of the city. At this point in time, that's not necessary because Ukraine is successfully holding the southeastern part of the city, like near the winery and this general area here. So there could come a time where they withdraw across the railroad and across the river and just control and just defend one half of the city. But obviously they see no reason to do that yet. I can tell you with complete confidence that Ukraine has no intention on abandoning Bakhmut at this point. They are doubling down on the defense of the city at this point. So whatever plans that may have existed for them to kind of slowly pull out of Bakhmut are, as of right now, they're not happening. They are going to defend Bakhmut, whether it's for better or worse. So south of Bakhmut in Klishivka, Ukraine lost the town probably, I want to say 4 days ago or so. And Russia is pushing up this hill. There's video from Adam that depicts Russians in these trenches at this kind of top of the hill, and then them pushing north along this forest strip and taking kind of comically high casualties in the process. Getting shot by everything, getting, HIMARS, howitzers, mortars, grads, just everything pouring on them as they try to move up. So there were rumors that Russia had some sort of breakthrough west of the town, but I have not been able to find any evidence of that. I've asked a bunch of people who would know, and none of them would even entertain the idea. So either they're in denial or it didn't happen. I can't really tell, but I think I see no evidence to believe that they had some sort of breakthrough on the west. They're attacking the middle. In fact, they asked me why on my map I had an arrow of Russia attacking over here, because they said that Russia's not even attacking there. They're basically only attacking up the middle. As for the weather is relatively clear. It's very sunny in the daytime. It's probably going to be sunny for a few days. The temperature is cold, but not that cold. How is the ground? I don't know. Probably the same as always, muddy. I haven't heard much news on the ground. It's probably just normal. Will Bradley be useful here? I imagine so. I don't see why not. They have every other sort of vehicle shelling this area. They have tanks and BMPs and grads. I don't see why Bradley wouldn't be good. And no, the the ground in Ukraine is not frozen. And at this point, it may never be frozen. like Constantine, I don't know if. Did you think the ground would freeze at this point? It wouldn't when it's this mild.
Yeah, it can. It might as well can. We still have 2 months, but obviously it's not. It's a warm winter, but the ground can freeze, and it might as well happen. But we still have time. But it did not freeze generally in the winter. So
it's a very mild winter.
Yeah, but there is still time for ground to freeze. So I would not be. I would be careful.
Okay, so there's some smaller attacks west, but they're not really worth talking about. There's Russia has been attacking Novobakhmutivka for the past few days. I don't actually know if they're attacking from the south or from the east, but either way, they're attacking this town, and they haven't made much progress, if any. Like, I haven't actually heard any news of progress at all. Like, it's just kind of small attacks that don't really mean much. Same goes for Krasnohorivka, these small attacks that don't really do anything. Now, for one of the bigger changes, today, or recently, is Vodiana. And the news here is somewhat controversial. I've marked most of it as a gray area because I don't actually know who controls what, part of the town. But generally speaking, I'm going to draw for this part. Russia claims to have captured about that. And they claim to be pushing further west. This could be true, or it may not be true. I'm not fully sure. I do know that Russia did push into this area. So that is not really controversial. So Russia is here. I just don't know if they captured it or if they're just they could have just been pushing an attack kind of like that, which could in theory face a counterattack which pushes them back, and then you end up with no change. So that's why I have this all as a gray area for now. It could change tomorrow, or whenever I get more information, I will try to nail down who controls what part of this town. But the Russians, they basically are claiming that they control this entire part of the town, and also some of this, although even the Russians kind of say this western part is controversial. So, and they also are claiming that this section is the entire town, which is not true, because the town is actually all of this. So if you see something like the Russians captured all of the town, they haven't. Even their most optimistic interpretation is only half the town. So the area of those BMPs, I believe, was somewhere here-ish. It was south of the town, I think. But I'm not entirely sure. When people say Pisky, you have to be very careful, because if you go back in time to like basically before last year, when you say the word Pisky to someone who serves like in this area. Like I will draw Pisky for you. Like this is what they think of when you say Pisky. It's that is Pisky. So like that. You just have to be careful when people say something happened in Pisky. Like this circle is Pisky. Nowadays, like since last year, when like more observers, more Westerners especially, are looking at the situation, we kind of break it down more granularly into these individual towns. But for a very long time, this entire area was Pisky, and the people who served in that time period are still talking about the situation, and they still call everything Pisky. Like I know people who served here in like 2014, and they call Opitny Pisky, they call Prvomaiski Pisky. Like all of these towns are Pisky, and it's very confusing. They say like, "Oh, the Russians attacked Pisky today." I'm like, okay, you have to be more specific. So yeah, that's one significant change that happened today that you should keep in mind. Marinka, last week I talked about how Russia had shifted their focus because they were attacking the middle of Marinka, and I said that they pulled out most of their forces to the rear of the city, and then they launched an attack kind of southwest from there. Well, that attack completely failed, and they withdrew back to the city again, and then they moved north, and now they're attacking this northern part of the city. So it's kind of an adventure that Russia is going on. They kind of, every few days, they attack a different area, and then it fails, and they withdraw, and they attack a different area. And that's what they're up to. But generally speaking, not much has changed. Now, for the Vuhledar area, Russia is they want to capture this kind of boot area that is between all three of these towns, cities, whatever. So, and Ukraine calls this like the dacha. But this middling area between the three towns has lots and lots of little tiny houses, first off. And more importantly, it connects all three towns. So they're attacking north through Pavlivka, trying to cross the river and attack it from the west, and they're attacking out of Mikilska and attacking it from the east that way. Some say that the Russians captured this part today. From my information, they already controlled that part, so my map did not change. If you look at other maps, a lot of them updated it to have that area under control. I don't know if Russia captured it today or some other time, but that's more or less what's happening in this area. They really, really want to control here and attack Vuhledar from the south, and they're also attacking Prishistivka. I'm trying so hard to say them, guys. They're attacking from the southeast and the southwest, and that didn't go anywhere either today. They attacked Novosilka. I didn't draw an arrow for this, but they attacked Novopil. Neither did anything. I didn't draw an arrow for this either, but they attacked Poltavka, and nothing happened. They attacked from Marfabil. Nothing happened. They attacked Bilohiria. Nothing happens there either. And well, I'll just go east to the west here. They're attacking Sherbaki and Mali Sherbaki. Again, nothing happened. They're attacking Stepove. Nothing happened. And this town of Lubkova, it is probably under Russian control. And after this, I'll probably mark it as Russian. And after this stream, I'll probably mark it. And then Russians claim to have captured Kamyanska. The Ukrainians say they have not captured it, and then the Russians declared that they didn't capture it because they didn't actually want it, but the Ukrainians fled and ran away. And then the Ukrainians published a video where they drove down the highway and then shot a grenade. So I have a feeling that Ukraine actually has abandoned the town due to heavy artillery shelling. And this way I've marked it as yellow. But the Russian claims of capturing are almost certainly false, I think. So yeah. An attack from these contexts, an attack would be most of them are company-sized elements running across a giant open field. That's like these attacks. They are very poorly coordinated. There are videos on Twitter and whatever that you can watch of kind of how stupid they are, but they're more or less just kind of a company sets up here and then they kind of like go run that way, run this way, and they get shelled a bunch of times. At some point in the middle, they give up and run away. So that's kind of what these attacks are. And I think most of them are company-sized, and some of them might even be smaller than that. One interesting point is that near this town, I don't actually know where near the town, but Yevhenivka, today, Ukraine, they claim that they shot down 3 Ka-52s in this town. I don't know if that's actually true, but I marked it with a question mark. And one other point is that near Novokakhovka, Ukraine published a video today of an assault across the river on little boats where they claim to have destroyed a BTR and killed like a squad of Russians and took one Russian captive. And the Russians claim that they destroyed the Ukrainian attack. And so yeah, and that's a little special forces raid that they filmed a video of. I don't actually know how successful it was, but it seemed like it wasn't a failure. So that is kind of the news that I have today. Someone asked me, how do I get the news? And it's from first reading all day, and second, talking to sources that I've developed over the past year. Some of them are, anyway, it doesn't matter. It's just talking to sources and reading material. those are the two ways.
I gotta step out for
Okay.
2 minutes. Have to have a bio break, and I'm gonna leave you at this awkward moment.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So that's kind of all I have prepared. I'm going to put up a picture of a leopard. Look at him. And I'll ask you if you have any questions while I look at this picture of a leopard. In terms of counterattacks, Ukraine. I mean, there's different types of counterattacks, right? They come in different scales. So like a platoon level counterattack, it may come at the initiative of the commander of that platoon. You know, it would be a good idea to attack right there, right now. So like whatever. So like a platoon level counterattack, it's not a super big deal, and those happen all the time. So platoon level counterattacks are occurring like 24/7, basically everywhere. Company level counterattacks occur very frequently as well. Battalion level counterattacks, that's when you're sort of getting into like much bigger forces attacking, and there's a lot more at stake. And then, you can have a brigade level attack, which is even bigger. So when they say they don't want Ukraine doing too many attacks, they're talking about those bigger attacks that are like battalion level or bigger. And generally speaking, Ukraine doesn't do many of those at all. And they very rarely do counterattacks larger than a brigade. Like, I don't know if they've ever really happened. So, so generally speaking, I don't think there is much of a worry of Ukraine doing giant counterattacks. And yeah, it would be good to wait for more material. And that's why Ukraine can't really do large counterattacks, because they don't have the material to lose. Like, they have the material to do the counterattack, but you will lose equipment in the attack, and they don't really have the equipment to replace the lost equipment, so they kind of just don't do it and just keep everything in reserve. Like, they're kind of waiting for their spot where to do their big counterattack when it really matters, and then that hasn't happened yet. A lot of people thought that they might do their big counterattack to hold Lysychansk, and that never really happened. And there hasn't really been a point where they needed to do a big counterattack since Lysychansk. There may come a point where they need to counterattack south of Bakhmut. Like, say, if they get too close to Chasiv Yar, they may want to counterattack to push them further away and keep kind of push the Russians back to where they are right now, maybe, or maybe a little bit further back. That could happen. I don't know. I can't really predict the future.
So what do you think how much effect can the constant supply, well, not constant, like continuous, I would say, supply of Western military aid would have on this, such as BMPs and tanks?
If you know that you're going to have a steady stream of supplies, and you can count on it, and you're confident in it, then you can use that to plan, your future maneuvers. And so if you know that you're going to get, 20 more vehicles a month, then you can risk, a certain number of vehicles a month, knowing that you're going to have them replaced. I think the certainty is kind of the bigger deal than the number of vehicles given. I think so. Just being able to plan without constantly being afraid of you know, like I don't know the word. Like if you don't have to worry about not getting stuff, like you don't have to build in contingencies, you can be more confident in your behavior.
Yep. So, what do you think that we have? What are the tactics being used right now? I see that Russia had some gains. I don't see them critical. It all depends, this is where some losses, some wins. Ukraine is the underdog here still because of simply lack of the equipment fighting with the on. Up until now, the only equipment that Ukraine was getting for the infantry was the BMP ones and older tanks, which are a problem. So, do they right now are Russians using a newer different tactics? They're not using heavy equipment as much, or we did not hear as much about it, such as tanks and armor. Because I keep hearing that it's a small infantry groups.
In the Bakhmut area, there are tanks, but they're just not that many.
They use tanks mostly for indirect fire, for like artillery support, as I understand.
Yeah.
Rather than for pincher through movements.
Yeah,
and this what. So it's mostly infantry, right?
Yeah, in the Bakhmut area, yes. Basically, just like basically everything between like Lysychansk and Orlivka is this is all basically just infantry for the Russians. The further north, there are more tanks further north.
So how come they have success with infantry only? Like, is it just a cannon fodder because they have so much of it, or just some mistakes by Ukraine or wrong tactics? What do you think?
From what I understand, what the Russians are doing is that they do three major things to attack. The first thing that they do is that, or maybe not three things. Anyway, I'm just going to go through it. The first thing that they do is that they do not let their soldiers retreat under any circumstance. If you retreat, they execute you. Like, no questions asked. If you retreat, you die. So that's one motivating factor to hold a position. The second, what's that?
Definitely motivates you pretty good.
Yeah, and the second thing is that they make heavy use of drones. I've heard an estimate that they are flying somewhere around 7,000 drones in the Bakhmut area. And that doesn't mean that there's 7,000 in the air at any one time, because like some of them are like recharging or whatever, like getting new batteries or whatever. So, but there are just tons and tons of drones up at any one time, and a lot of these drones, they do they serve several purposes. First, they spot the Ukrainians. Which isn't really the main purpose of the drone, but that's one advantage, is they spot the Ukrainians. Second, they plan routes of advance. So the Russians, they get into extreme fine detail on, like, they'll say, like, run from this tree to that tree, and then from this tree to that tree. Like, they really, in fine detail, plan out the movements of basically every squad and platoon before an attack, and the guys basically just run from waypoint to waypoint, and that's kind of their offensive. It's one way that they are able to use really poorly trained troops, is they they give one guy like like GPS and say or whatever, and they say just follow the waypoints, and everybody else follow that guy. So they use the drones to map out these attack routes. The third thing the drone does is make sure that people are actually following the routes, and if they do not follow the routes, they get in a lot of trouble and probably executed. And so the
Are you talking about Wagner right now?
yes, I'm talking about Wagner, yeah. So and very specifically Wagner attacking Bakhmut. So those are the primary uses of the drone. So the next thing that they do is that they have extremely good mortar teams. They have very highly trained, highly skilled, highly accurate mortar teams. And they work in conjunction with the drones and with the infantry to provide just devastating firepower. They also have automatic grenade launchers, which serve a similar purpose, except maybe a little bit more deadly because they just fire a lot of explosions at a very short period of time. So all of those things combined. And then there's another part where Wagner they will order their squads to attack in prepared routes, attacking many different places at the same time, like dozens of places simultaneously. And if any one breaks through, like if they find a weakness and they get a foothold in a trench or whatever, they will then order all of the nearby squads to move into that position and reinforce it immediately. So all of these things combined are why Wagner are so effective. So you can't retreat because you'll die. You follow their pre-planned route or they kill you. They have pretty good scouting and tons of resources dedicated to scouting. They have very accurate mortar fire and automatic grenade launcher fire, and they're very good at exploiting positions, exploiting successes. So they can rapidly capture positions by just swarming it with all of the infantry once they get a foothold in that position. So that is why Wagner is successful in their attacks. That, and they don't really seem to care too much about how many casualties they take, because if you don't follow an order, they kill you. So so the counter to Wagner is to have layered defenses, defenses that are perpendicular to each other, defenses that can cover each other, and you can attack one of your defenses from a different one of your defenses. So it's basically you just need defense in depth. So yeah, that's kind of the Wagner situation as I understand it. Saying that the Wagner group is good at fighting, I think, is wrong. I don't think they're good at fighting. They are expending a very huge amount of resources to do really not that much. Because if you were to take a look at how many casualties each of these attacks takes, it's it really is a lot. Like they're losing hundreds of people to capture little positions, and they're just doing it over and over and over again. They have success in large part due to the brutality of the system, where if you don't do what you're told, they kill you, and that's a motivator. And they have been able to find enough people to join them, whether willingly or not willingly, that they've been able to feed their machine. It's kind of
Yeah, so basically you say that they are, how you say this, one time, we call it одноразовые, used only once, then it expires. You cannot use it two times because, there are so many prisoners in Russia to be used, and professionals, they cannot afford to throw into the death so many professionals because they will simply run out of them and will not be able to perform anymore.
yeah, it's not a sustainable way to fight a war. it's
Yeah, and just for people to understand, we're talking about really small incremental gains that they're having right now. If you expand so many people on such small gains, no matter what you do, you will not eventually succeed. You will get a. I mean, let's say, how long is it gonna take them to take Donbass entirely? How many people are? Is it gonna be 200,000? 200,000 dead to just take one region? I mean, it's doesn't look really like a victory, because you will get then counterattack in your face when you reach the culmination point, basically, and you will. This is a matter. They can try to keep their try feeding the machine, but it's gonna run out eventually. Russia does not have endless people. Even with 140 million people, they don't want to find it's hard to mobilize. Their economy is not that great, so it's not gonna run for them for too long.
yeah, I'm just kind of clicking a bunch of areas that Wagner has captured, and then I just want to kind of get like a general picture. This is obviously missing spots, but whatever. But like that's how much of Ukraine that they've captured in the past. What is it? 8 months or so, and they've lost around 30,000 dead, I think, in that time period. I don't know if that's a sustainable system. I mean, when I say 30,000 dead, I mean just Wagner. That's not even counting the Russian army. It's just Wagner, like 30,000 dead to capture that. And there's this much more Ukraine. Do you think taking 30,000 dead to get this little white part, do you think that is going to get the whole rest of Ukraine?
Yeah, and they did not take it yet. I mean, yeah, I don't think that they're having the success. It's sad, and people get upset, and I feel discouraged. Friends die. Fortunately, that's the reality of war. But what they're doing is just insane. That they're sacrificing everything they can just to take those small strips of land and paying such a high price for it. Hopefully, they're gonna run out sooner than later, and the more get more aid Ukraine gets, the more the lesser the prices for Ukraine, and the higher the prices for Russia. So it's just it's not I cannot say that this aid is anything is like a game changer. Okay, everything's gonna change now. It's more like, okay, they're gonna pay higher price, higher price, higher price, up to the point where they simply cannot afford it. And when they cannot afford it, that's when you get the culmination point and the counterattack in your face.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that they decided to mobilize, because I feel like the war would be much closer to ending right now with a lot fewer dead if they did not mobilize, but they decided to extend it. So, and then now they want to extend it even further with another mobilization. So, but what can you do?
Yeah, and once again, what they're doing is they're increasing the price for Ukraine. This mobilization is not going to be anything victorious for them. This mobilization is going to be increasing the price of for Ukraine and subsequently for Russia as well. But they don't think about it. That's the problem.
Okay. Well, I've covered all the things I wanted to talk about. Um, I don't know if there's any more questions, or Constantine, if there's anything you'd like to talk about.
No, I don't have much to talk about. Unfortunately, I'm still at work. So, well, by at work I mean sitting at home, but working. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the reality I have to face. Unless otherwise I would have to start taking donation not for Ukrainian military but for myself.
Yeah,
That's the reality, sorry.
it makes sense. The we do the stream on Tuesday and Thursday. There might be more streams in addition to that if we have a special guest or something special to talk about. But Tuesday and Thursday is our schedule. How long will Bakhmut hold on? I don't know. Ukraine is doubling down on Bakhmut. They're not giving up on it. They're not pulling out. So how long does it hold? I don't know. Ukraine wants to hold it a very long time. What happens? I mean, I don't have a crystal ball. I think that Ukraine might have to withdraw to this highway slash railroad line and give up half of the city and just defend one half of it. That could happen. It could happen soon. It's also possible that this northern area of Bakhmut will stabilize, and they might even counterattack to push Russia out of these houses, this residential area. I don't know, but Ukraine does not want to give up on Bakhmut. And to be totally honest, there was a point where it looked like Ukraine was leaving Bakhmut. And then something happened that made them decide to not to leave. And I don't know what that thing was, but they're not leaving Bakhmut now. Like, they're doubling down. Okay. So I'm looking through if there's any more questions. Yeah, and you're free to come view our next live stream. There's on Twitter, I will post this is I put the streams on YouTube after they're done, and I will post a link to that. And from that link, you can listen to past live streams if you want to. will Russia attack north of Kharkiv? It is possible. I think Russia is planning an offensive. I don't know where the offensive will be. Personally, I think the offensive will be near Vuhledar, but I don't know for certain where it will be. I am pretty sure it will not happen near Zaporizhia, because I think that'd be suicidal. And obviously, they're already attacking Bakhmut, so places for an offensive. There could be one in like the Kupiansk area. There could be an offensive. There could be one north of Kharkiv, anywhere in Sumy and Chernihiv, and I kind of doubt that there will be one out of Belarus. I think any offensive will come from Russia or Russia-controlled territory. I don't think it'll come from Belarus. So, but I don't have a crystal ball, and I don't have special intelligence on where the attack will come. I just very strongly believe there will be an attack soon, and it could be near Kharkiv. It's a possibility, but I don't know. When I say an offensive, I mostly mean like a big offensive. I don't mean like I mean an offensive on the scale of like the like almost as big as what they did last year in their initial push. I think that's the level of offensive we're talking about, like something very big, like 100,000 guys type offensive. The Yeah, that's what I think. There will be a large offensive. I think there's a lot of signs pointing to it. Russia is building forces right now, like large forces, not small things. They're building out brigades, divisions. They're training them in tactics that are more similar to Wagner, where they're using heavy mortars as their primary artillery piece, and not so much howitzers. Using mortars to cover infantry attacks. Like Russia is learning. Like they have learned over the past year all of the things that worked, all of the things that did not work, and they're adapting, and they are generating new forces based on those lessons. And I think they're going to use those new forces in an offensive. And I think this offensive, I think, is going to be Wagner-esque. It will be Wagner without the threat of murder, basically. Russia will not be able to threaten to kill people. Like I don't think that would float legally, but they will do the same sort of infantry attacks, the same sort of drone support, the same sort of heavy mortar support. Yeah, they did replace their commander. They did. Yeah, I'm just relaying the best information I have. I'm not like the people that I know who talk about this Russian counterattack the most are the best sources of information I have. They're like almost never wrong. They've been right about everything. So Will they
Those
be
bastards.
well equipped? I think that an attack like this would be sort of Wagner like, where they wouldn't rely on heavy vehicles. I don't think they'd be using large mechanized infantry. I don't think they'd be using like large numbers of BMPs and stuff. Like they would use them, obviously they're like available, but I think it would be more the way Wagner is working. Although not quite Wagner, because Russia can't replicate Wagner for a lot of reasons. They're not allowed to murder people, they're not allowed to torture people, and also their discipline isn't as high, mostly because of the lack of murder. So they can't perfectly replicate Wagner, but they can take the lessons that they learned from Wagner and apply it to their military. So yeah, I think that's all I got for today. Yeah, the March, I think the next like 5 or 6 months will be very brutal in Ukraine. Like I think the next, up until maybe June or July or something like that, like maybe the middle of summer, maybe August, like up till around then is not gonna, it's going to like we're entering, I think, the worst stage of the war, probably. Because if you think about it from Russia's perspective, Russia has to end this war as fast as possible because it's just really not going well for them. Like their economy is having a lot of issues. Like they just can't fight a war like this for too much longer. Like they have to end the war. So I really think that Russia's kind of goal here is to, if we throw everything that we have at Ukraine, including an information war, we throw an offensive, we attack in lots of places at the same time, we shoot all the missiles we have, try to knock out the power plants and whatever. If we do everything, maybe we can break them before the end of the summer. I think that's kind of their goal. And Ukraine's goal, I think, and I could be wrong about all of this, so don't take it with like a great assault, but I think Ukraine's mission here is basically to weather the storm and survive. And I think the reason NATO is giving all of this equipment right now, like why didn't they do this, a month ago? Why don't they do it in 1 month? I think the reason they're giving it now is because of Russia planning this offensive.
Well, I would. There's another, reason. Purely logistical reasons are there. I'll be honest with you. Ukraine. It's a big problem that people don't understand. Even though Ukraine has the morale and all the will to fight, and the right people, we still have grew our military forces that are fighting from 200,000 to like 600,000 that are right now in Ukrainian armed forces, and there is no chance that you can grow them with the and have all of them to be professional soldiers that they know what they are doing. Reality is that there are a lot of mobilized troops that were wrongfully mobilized, They don't know what they're doing. They're not really. They don't have the skills. It's just when you mobilize someone, it's not like you're asking him, "Oh, you want to fight? Do you want to join?" Well, most will say no because most are not fighters, but they don't mind joining. So, but if they have a chance to avoid it, they will. Because that's reality. That's the reality of everyone and everywhere, and getting those troops to be trained is quite hard. And of course, there is a reluctance to give too much sophisticated, and it's not that sophisticated. It's not. It's just your equipment because you're afraid that it's going to be lost. You have some concerns. Of course, there are. No one takes off the logistical problems that comes with all of this because we're not talking about trucks. We're talking about heavy military equipment that is pretty hard to use and maintain. Not maintain specifically, not only know how to fight it. The parts are a problem. The repairs are the problem. Even Humvees, for example, which are quite effective and used very widely in Ukraine. We do have problems with that. Let's be honest. We do have problems maintaining them because they break. Uh, there are a lot of problems with spare parts. There are a lot of problems with tools because, as a simple thing, I will tell you that in Europe and in Ukraine, we have metric system on our wrenches and ratchets. Um, and in the United States, you have inches, you have empirical, and even that is different. So supplying enough, it seems easy, right? But it's not as easy as you can imagine. With the European and Soviet equipment, every garage has tools to fix it. Literally every garage, everyone who has tools at home, they will fit uh, to fix them, but you cannot find any garage that has tools for to fix the hammer because there are simply no wrenches. And there are a lot of problems like that come in, and trust me, it's not that straightforward. It's also one of the reasons. It is a solvable reason. I don't want to say that it's Ukrainians will not be able to handle it. What I'm saying is that. It can be solved, but it takes an effort. And considering the slowness of the general of the machine, a bureaucratic machine of the United States, and the West, it's all right. I think the help that is given, is the speed with which is given. It's okay. Of course, we want more. Of course, we don't want West to just to look at it and just give us. We want them to give us as much as we can, but the realities are realities, and we have to face them. That's the truth. That the truth pill that we have to take.
So, Constantine, I unfortunately didn't save this, but did you see the video of the Ukrainians? They like pulled the engine out of a BMP in the field and just like fixed it in like on like a farm road.
I've seen that. I actually worked with engine repair. We worked with yams, and that's how we fixed it in Ukraine when you don't have equipment. You can do it in the field, and you can test it before putting it into the engine. You take the gas canister because it's a diesel. You don't need there is no electric part in it. You just put the canister a bit higher than the engine itself, so the fuel will start pumping. You pump there is a manual pump on it. You pump it after the repair, and you just bring the two 12-volt accumulator batteries, connect to the starter, and just go launch it and see if it works before installing it. Yeah, that's I did it myself. So
Yeah, but the video is pretty funny. I think the two guys are pretty funny, and they're starting up their little BMP engine, and like the one guy was kind of like riding it. But anyway, F-16s are pretty cool. I do think Ukraine will get an F-16. Well, I'll put it this way. Ukraine is absolutely getting a jet. If it's not an F-16, it will be another jet. But they will get a jet in, I think, this year.
I do believe that we will get same as tanks, and tanks are even actually easier. I think tanks are a bit more complex to maintain and provide than the jets actually, because first of all, the pilots. Even though they're hard to train, you must imagine that every pilot that flies in Ukraine, it's pretty experienced guy, and tankers, they are, let's say, it just tanker is a private usually. The pilot usually has 10 years of experience.
One,
Tanker is someone mobilized who was just shooting somewhere, and we have technical guys. We have universities. Ukraine is a plane building country. Not many of the countries in the world build planes here, and Ukraine is
this
one of them. And we have the closed cycle.
there is one issue with the planes.
Well, there are a lot of issues.
Well, no, but there's one like really big issue though. There's the Soviet and Russian style instruments are very different than instruments from other countries. So, you can fly a plane safely, right? But when something goes wrong and you have to act kind of on instinct, the fact that the instruments are measured sometimes like literally the opposite measurement, it can cause like major issues. Like for example,
So I would suggest that we're going a bit into the area. Well, at least for me, this is terra incognita. I don't really know what you're talking about right now, and I'm not sure that we know. If you're sure, please go ahead. But I just want to be another guy that is wrong and does not really knows
there's
what. Go ahead.
yeah, that's fair enough. But I can't remember the name of the instrument. It's the instrument that measures the horizon in an airplane, and the in the West, I believe, you have like a circle with a horizon on it, and there's like your wings, right? And there's one way to measure it where the airplane stays constant and the horizon around it shifts. And there's the other way of measuring it where the horizon is constant and the airplane moves. And that sort of instrument. So the Russians use one version and the West uses the other version. And it's just instruments differences like that cause fatal accidents, like frequently.
I really don't think it's just a matter of habit, and experience. I think those things like that are pretty easy solvable, and we have our pilots are flying a lot of just standard commercial aircraft, also flying planes, helicopters. And I don't think it's going to be a big of a problem. Of course, it is a problem, and of course, but it's just one of them that can be solved. It's a matter of time, of course. It maybe take 5 months, but hey, what is like 5 months? The war is not stopping in 5 months. I'm sure about that. It's gonna go on for probably a year or so. So, and this is maybe actually the thing that airplanes that can change it, that can speed up the end of it.
This is just what I'm talking about. That's the difference between a Western and a Russian indicator. But anyways, that's all I have to talk about today. We've been going for 90 minutes. I think that's a good amount of time. So thank you everybody for coming, and we'll be back on Thursday to talk about other stuff. All right. See you later.
Yeah, thanks for coming.